Hi, and welcome to Member Stories. This is a series created by the Trend Atelier School and community to really celebrate the forecasters and the designers, creatives who dedicate themselves to creating a better future and also dedicate themselves to communities. So we're going to explore more about their work and what forecasting means to them, as well as what community means to them. And I'm Geraldine Maury. I'm a fashion futurist, educator, and designer, and I'm the founder of the Trend Atelier. And today I'm really excited to have Cora Rosie Kane, who is someone that we've worked together. You're a member of the Trend Atelier community, but more importantly, you're a writer, a trend researcher, and founder of Platform. And you're very international, as you're both based in Senegal and in France, but you also travel around Europe. And so I guess I'm going to introduce you a little bit. And your work is so interesting. So bear with me for the next minute or so as I talk at length about Cora's work. But Cora has a very unique way of looking at cultural and social trends. And it's really, she has a unique lens through which she analyzes the fashion industry because like many of us in the community, you believe that the field goes far beyond garments and trends, and you really, really see it as a much bigger picture in society and as part of social and climate change. So you've been amazing with styling, editorials, showcasing emerging talent. Your Instagram is amazing, your blog as well. You've written for my blog, you have many followers, but your personal project Platform is just amazing. I highly recommend everybody looks it up online and on Instagram. And you focus on emerging and alternative fashion, but it's much more than that. It's really about challenging the establishment. And this is something you write came up for you as you were researching the fashion industry, and you realized you felt excluded, and you felt this was very homogenous and you were underrepresented, and you kind of set out to see how the fashion industry could include more certain social communities, and that's why you started Platform. And through the focus on emerging and alternative fashion, you're really able to analyze social and artistic changes and forecast transformation. But what I love about your work is you're very deep in your approach, and you have this deep awareness, and you want to take a very mindful approach to fashion design and consumption, and that's what we're all about. So it's been amazing to collaborate with you, but also have you as a community member. So that's my intro to you, Cora. But can you tell us a little bit more about your work?
Yes, for sure. So thank you, Geraldine, for having me on this members stories. It's a real honor. I really love the Trend Atelier. So as you said, I'm really fascinated by fashion. It's been the case since I was a child. I was always fascinated by fashion industry, but I was having a hard time to identify to the main communication and speech and discord that was shared into the fashion industry. I felt very uncomfortable with myself for a long time because I felt ashamed I couldn't fit into the standards that was imposed. So basically, it was very confusing, and I tried to fit hard, very hard, but it wasn't possible because it will have required that I become a total different person. But it's only when I start studying communication and sociology that I realized actually I was not the problem, but the system was kind of the problem. The system was kind of broke. And I knew I was not the only one to feel that way. So I started Platform, as you said, to aim for underrepresented and invisible and unheard community of the fashion industry. And it led me to focus on emerging and alternative fashion, since they were the ones that are kind of including a lot of cultural and social insight to their work. I start Platform through the magazine, so I analyze a lot of creatives and small groups and communities, small communities. And now I want to expand to just like give a more space, a multi-dimensional space kind of to this kind of like to these segments. And also like I decided to go back to Dakar and to kind of like reconnect with my roots, because I wanted to have other practices and vision in terms of fashion. I wanted to see something else far from the Western standards. So I committed here, and I want, of course, to analyze West African communities, but in general, like in the long term, I think I will have to expand into like African continent in general. So that's where I am for now.
That's amazing. So actually that leads me to my next question, which is like kind of your new venture and what your kind of your project platform is evolving now that you've committed to, like you said, being based out of Senegal, mostly out of Dakar. And I guess this next question is a bit almost like two questions, but you could tell us a little bit more about this new venture development in platform, but also I guess what has led you to being so entrepreneurial and initiating this and you know having that gumption and energy to be like, I am going to create this project.
So my project, I want to expand into like a multi-dimensional space or a bigger structure. Will be like articulated around three axes. So an agency dedicated to emerging and alternative fashion in the region of like West African. Also like a research and a creative lab, and to continue, of course, the magazine. I wanted to do that here because there is no so much structure to advise and like allow these designers and creative to blossom and just express themselves. So I felt it was an opportunity for me, because I have like this heritage and I can, you know, understand what they are waiting for in terms of communication, advising, even creative wise, like it's kind of like I understand it. And also like this entrepreneurial project came because honestly, I realized I didn't have my place into like the existing system. It was very hard to find my place. I was rejected all the time. I wasn't feeling enough. So I just decided to create my own activity because it wasn't possible in the structure that was already existed. So I decided I just felt tired of like being rejected, honestly. So that's why I started platform, because I just wanted to give the opportunity to other to like you know, feel welcome into like other type of vision and practice in terms of fashion. And you know,
Yeah,
it was just, yeah.
I guess that makes sense. A lot of people succeed because they felt out of place or something wasn't fitting for them, so they created something that they felt fit. And
Exactly.
I think you mentioned even with things where you entered certain programs or were, you know, successful at entering these programs, still the narrative or the way of doing things is still not culturally kind of appropriate or still too Eurocentric, and you're trying to do something else. So I think it's amazing because you do have thousands and thousands of followers. Like, you're very modest, by the way. But you know, you write for amazing magazines and the quality of your work is very high, and you know, your writing is understandable, but it's also quite knowledgeable and academic. There's so many references. You're incredibly thorough. And you also have this like just gorgeous and unique vision. So I'm really excited to see what platform will evolve into, because I just want to preface that you did create platform like several years ago, and it's been an evolving project, and now you're at a stage where you're like, okay, I'm ready and I'm going to center this in, like the HQ are in Dakar, and it's the agency that this, the that, and it feels like a natural progression.
Yeah,
And it also feels like it's not like you didn't try to do it elsewhere, you know?
yeah,
You tried,
definitely.
and so that's exciting, and I can personally understand the need for that, because when I used to work in the US, it was more diverse in terms of the fashion teams that I worked with. But when I came to London, I did find it quite homogenous. So um, I think, yeah, I think there's a greater need for different sensibilities, different cultures, different emergence and
Yeah.
points of view and ways of communicating, and so it's great. And I guess, um, like, I guess you touched upon some of the challenges that you experienced and what they led you to. Um, but do you want to tell us a little bit more, or we can skip that question? Like, you already
No,
kind of
no,
touched on that.
I think it's a really like I think it's a very very important question, especially now. The three challenges that I experience and I still kind of like experiencing them are bound together. They are quite like not the same. There is nuances, but there is three. The first one is like representation. There is a real lack of representation. You said it earlier. Like it's a very one-dimensional vision of fashion industry. So the standards are like this, and if you are out, you just like it's hard to make your way into the industry. The second one I would say is tokenism. Unfortunately, I've been a lot like a token in many situations, and it's so sad because I know companies are willing to be more diverse and everything. It's just they're not really listening to like the claims of like the people they are tokenized. So tokenism is a really really big problem for me, and it's kind of like blurring the real issues, because it's not allowing us to have like deep change and systemic change. It's just like an image. And the other one is like linked to tokenism. It's work washing, and lately we've been like submitting to a lot of work washing. It's not only about social issues; it can be also about greenwashing, and like all the discourse about sustainability. But when you look into the company, you can see that behind the closed doors is not like this at all. Like they're not following what they are advertising. So the three challenges are kind of like linked together, but I feel there is nuances in the way that work pushing is like it's it's um, it's referring to a more global aspect of like all the issues and social issues we have right now. Like it's referred to tokenism and to underrepresentation as well, but it's very different from this notion as well. I don't know if it makes sense.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it makes sense because um, I think it does make sense. And I think it's hard for many people who are trying, but perhaps either doing it not quite the right way. And there's sort of an entry point, but then it has to be followed through with
Yeah,
multiple measures. And the tokenism thing is a real problem, as well as woke washing and greenwashing, and it's a threat to truly addressing the issues. And it's
exactly.
okay to make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes, but there needs to be a point where you address that and then move
Yeah,
forward, and otherwise you run the risk of fragmenting things, where someone like yourself or your community platform would want to remove themselves from the conversation, which
exactly.
it's sad, it shouldn't be that way. But at the
Yeah,
same time, I find it so complex, because on the other hand, it shouldn't be up to certain communities to teach others how to
right.
be treated. So it's such a complex unpacking of things I find, but that's really interesting. And I think your honesty about it is really important as well.
Yeah, this is something that is lacking. Like there is a lack of authenticity and honesty, and people tend to forget very easily in the fashion industry, which is kind of sad because they're doing something one season and then the next they totally like forget about what happened
Yeah,
before. So it's
yeah,
kind of like always about profit, and they not working towards real change.
yeah.
And I think it's just time for real change because we are just tired of like fighting for the same stuff over and over and over and repeating ourselves, especially in the French culture. Like I feel each year there is a new documentary about like racism and how it's bad for society, and people are like, oh my God, I can't believe you've been through so much. Like, yeah, I told you like 5 years ago already. Like it's always like on repeat. It's kind of like tiring.
Yeah, yeah. I wish I could say I understand, but I don't think I'm in a position to really say that in my own way. But at the same time, I do feel I understand in the sense that I do feel I have enough experience to see
Mm.
some of the things that have gotten better and that at least there's an awareness of it today. Like that's what's I think should be seen as a positive. There is an awareness, but it's like
Mm.
anything. Like once you open the door, now you have to really go
Go for
through
it.
it. So I
Yeah.
feel like at least now the door is open, there's dialogue, there's a lot of examination of everything, but there's still so much work to be done.
Yeah, yeah.
And
And um, it's always the Eurocentric point of view that is like kind of like preventing us from just moving on, because I feel like Europe and Western world in general want a certain image of like other cultures, and they want to shape it the way they think it is. And I think in London or in the British fashion industry, it's been kind of like sad because a lot of black designer has been like advertised, but I feel it's really like Eurocentric. Like the values and the aesthetic is really Eurocentric. It's not really like truly. It's not really truly represented through the eyes of like the heritage of the designer or the creative. It's just like kind of like reshaped for like a European audience.
yeah, 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 yeah. 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 I mean, it's such a huge conversation to unpack. I wish we had more time to talk about it. And maybe that's something we can do like separately. I mean, we've talked about it. You wrote a piece for the blog called Decolonizing Fashion. And then you wrote also a separate piece, but also really interesting on fashion as therapy. And yeah, your point of view is really, I guess, important. And I don't want to say anything that sounds like tokenizing, but
No,
having you
no.
in the community and your understanding and your point of view is really great for us, you know. But again, like the community, we come from so many different regions too. But I guess if I'll move on to our next question, which that we had planned, but I was wondering also, like, what are your like, how does future forecasting and like future trend research inform your work and your collective platform?
I think trend research and trend forecasting just allows us to inform us to understand what is coming next, and what we need to focus on for the future of fashion. Also, I feel like trend research is a big part of my work because it allows us to have more consistency in terms of creativity or consistency in general. Without research, for me, there is no creativity, there is no dialogue, there is no nothing, basically. And I know that my community likes to be informed and well informed. They don't want fake news or like unresearched topic to be like shared. So this is very important to always research. Also, trend research allow us to discover so many things because I'm doing like a lot of curation on a daily basis. So I'm able to share with them what I'm finding like on a daily basis, and it's a progressive work. And also it can take like many forms because when we think about trend research or trend forecasting, we think about like writing, but it can be also visual, which is very interesting to just like analyze, you know, all the imagery that is searching imagery, searching trend, yeah, searching into like more visually resources. And finally, I think that trend research and trend forecast, but mainly trend research, it's essential to avoid any ethnocentric way of seeing the fashion industry. If you research well on practices and culture and the way other culture are doing fashion, you can't have any ethnocentric way of doing, like analyzing fashion industry. So maybe it's a way to open up people's mind in general.
Yeah, I love that because to me, I think that's what it is. Trend forecasting is about expanding your mind and your understanding of things and, you know, allowing yourself to accept, I don't know this or I don't know enough about this. Let me explore this. Let me try and discover new outlooks, new visions, about have a more wholesome approach. But
Yeah.
I guess what have been also made perhaps some of the challenges within this like forecasting or like I like to use the term futuring about your work, like what are some of the challenges that you experience?
In terms of future, I think right now the only thing that can come to my mind is, but we discussed that a lot in the Trend Atelier, is the Metaverse initiative. And all the technology is kind of like challenging because basically it's made from like the system we already know. So I'm afraid we're gonna have to fight for the same stuff, even in like this kind of like virtual world. Um, I read a lot about diversity in the metaverse, in video games, in like virtual experiences that not including like POC, Black people, or like any other community. So I think in the future, the fact that we're evolving in a more like virtual world is going to be a problem as well because we're gonna make the same mistakes since our problem in real life are still unresolved. I feel like it's going to transpose into like the future life we are going to explore in the metaverse or even something else that is going to come in the future. Like, but yeah, diversity and inclusion and, you know, egalitarian society is going to be a challenge, I think, for the next
Yeah,
few years.
yeah. So I guess like, do you find it challenging to get the understanding or like, I guess what I meant is like, do you find certain challenges in terms of the actual forecasting work or like research work, getting the information you need or having to sift through so much information or?
Well, in terms of trend research, especially I'm going to speak about African society because research are so different from what I experienced in the West. There is no so much writing or online resources. You need to dig into the society, so be present on the ground and have like be in the country to have all the resources. It could be library, it could be museums, it could be just hanging in the street and looking at people doing their lives. So I think we need to kind of like have more formal resources for this kind of like informal societies. African societies are very informal. I speak about West African society because East can be different and even South can be very different. But when it comes to West African society, it's very informal. So the resources are kind of like, it's not existing. Like they don't exist. You have to be here and just surround yourself with the environment, the dynamic, the social dynamic, and learn from it. I'm taking a lot of notes lately because I think it's important. I don't know how I'm gonna share them on the long term, but I think it's a very important thing to do for the next generation, and to just like allow the industries, the creative industries, not only fashion, to evolve and to like, you know, not develop because it's kind of like Western oriented way to see things, but just to evolve, like to see the things evolve in general.
I think that's really interesting, and I'm sort of jealous in a way of like this kind of more lived approach to forecasting, and you know, more of a living system, and the ability in a way to shape that in a way that works for the region and the needs. It's not about saying, oh, because in the West we're relying a lot on online research and that's how it should be there. It's not about that. You have the opportunity to shape that in whatever ways works for you. And it's true, like in a way with foresight and research in more of the northern hemisphere, we're so obsessed with social media and online research and online hype, that it clouds our unique a sense of creativity and unique vision and a lived experience as part of your forecasting work, that you need that intuition, that sense making, that being on the ground and feeling things. And because we end up very influenced by just the amount of information, and then it produces a type of sameness and the same sound bites, and then it becomes something where the foresight becomes almost self-proclaimed. That makes sense. And so I think it's a great place to be. And for some, it might sound very challenging, but it's actually, I think, a really good place to be as well. But I was wondering, like, for yourself as a community leader, yourself leading platform, how has the Trend Atelier community supported you in your own journey, I guess?
So first, I feel very lucky to have you in my life since since we started collaborating. It's been like you've been really like a mentor for me. Every time that I had like a problem or challenge, I was like always thinking I need to ask Geraldine. And the Trend Atelier is an awesome like initiative. I think the first thing that I want to mention is the resources and knowledge that is available every day. Especially since we are exploring like monthly topic, we are able to just like explore so many things on a month, and there is so many articles and content that are shared, which is very enriching. I've been like inspired by many content and people that shared this content. Then of course there is the peers. It's so good, and so like I'm so happy to have these people that are doing their own project and sharing their visions, and you can like kind of like learn from them all the time, and it's very enriching. Like socially, it's very enriching, and it's good to be with people that actually understand what you're doing, because like trend research is not so like generalized. People don't know all the ways what does it mean, so it's very like comforting. And also like I feel the Trend Atelier is really a safe space for me. When we are like in an industry and in a world that is so like unsafe and harsh and can be very depressing sometimes, I feel like we can always find comfort and like support in the Trend Atelier, because it's a community where you can share safely, you can learn safely, you're not going to be judged, which is very important for me and a precious thing. And of course, I think it's a place where we are allowed and not judged for like exploring disruptive conception or disruptive way to approach the industries. And it's just aligned with all my values in general, which is very rare, because for so many people, I'm too opinioned. or like I have too much opinions, I have too much like I'm too frank or stuff like this. In the Train Atelier, it's not like this. I can be myself, and people are just like responding by being themselves. So it's a very safe place, and like honestly, I don't have other space like this in
Oh,
my
thank
life.
you. That's really nice. That's really nice. Yeah, we try and we're working on creating this space as we go along. So you saying that is very rewarding. But so yeah, I feel humbled by what you said.
What
And
you create,
obviously it's not, I mean, I founded it, but it's really the community. It's just creating a set of values that everyone feels right about.
yeah.
And but I guess I wanted to ask, this is my last question, just like, where can we find you? If we can't go to Dakar, not all of us can go to Dakar right now, but in general, like where can we find you and what's next for you?
So you can find me on social media. I have an Instagram page platform. I have a website, but I need to change the domain name because it's only magazine, and I want to like make it more general. So I have the website. But in terms of what is coming next, so I want to open my structure here and to dedicate it to emerging and alternative creative into the regions. And as the Train Atelier, that I've been inspired by the fact that I want to create like the Train Atelier a safe space for people to express and blossom in general. I think we need this kind of like spaces right now. I want to just like being able to help changing the narrative and to help like the creative in those regions of West Africa to just like accept themselves and be proud of themselves and cultivate self-love kind of, and not being ashamed to not be part of the Western world, because it's not a problem. It's okay to not be part of the Western world. So I really hope to help them accept themselves and use their cultural project and capital to just embrace it and work on it and use it for their creativity and not being embarrassed. Because at the end of the day, I feel, and a lot of like of my family said that to me, we need to sacrifice for like the next generation to be just like comfortable with like doing whatever they want and set example for like creative like career that are just succeeding kind of. I'm not like gonna say I'm succeed, like I succeed, but just like set an example for the next generation to just embark into like creative fields and show them that it's totally okay to like be a creative and to make money out of it or like to make a living out of it. And yeah, like as I said, like I just want them to feel proud of themselves and to not look outside but inside their own culture, and just to be happy with what they have and expand it, make it evolve according what they want to do. And I hope it's going to inspire more communities to just liberate from all this hegemonic Western gaze, because at the end of the day, there is not only Black communities or Afro communities that are impacted by this hegemonic vision. It's all the communities that are not Western. So I really hope to, yeah, make a better future, kind of. Be nice.
It starts with everyone, doing what they feel they can do, whether it's a collective or whether it's someone just for themselves, like the values they want to follow. Everyone's got their own way. Like no one should feel like, oh, I need to start a collective or community in order to make change. You can also just create change on your own, but that's what you've decided to kind of try and provide leadership and in humble leadership, and I'm really excited for you and what's next. And it sounds very exciting, and I know you're going to do great because platform has such an amazing foundation already.
Yeah.
So
I was able because of all the people that I collaborate with. I wouldn't have been able to do so much without all these collaborators, honestly.
Yeah. Well, it's great. I mean, it's somehow you manage to be also a magnet. Like we're all like kind of like magnets gravitating towards each other. We find each other somehow. It's like,
Yeah,
you know.
and we're gonna stick together.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you so much. I guess I'm going to stop the recording now of this amazing chat. It was so good to hear more in detail about everything and your approach and your hopes, your challenges, your beliefs, everything. It's been amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
So
much.
again, you can find Cora on a platform on Instagram, also her website, which will be updated, and I'll put all of the details below in the comments so that you can easily connect with Cora. All right, well, bye everyone, and it was great to have you today. Cora,
Thank you.
bye.